welcome to the show. I'm Jacquelene Close-Moore. You're on Soulstar Radio, or you were. That's what I used to call it. You're on A1R, Psychic Radio, Moonstruck TV. I've got to love that blooper right there. It's a day for it. So we've come out of lockdown in Melbourne again. We're doing our thing. We had massive lightning and thunderstorms last night and a massive windstorm this morning. Looking forward to that solar eclipse on the 19th of November, or rather I'm not. It's going to be at 27 degrees Taurus. So good luck to all of those with anything at Algol. You might want to look that up. In any case, in the meantime today, we might just go into a bit of a couple of spreads I've done here. I've got here, I was actually pulling out, well, what's the message people are maybe needing today or when they see these podcasts. And I've actually pulled out a particular deck given to me by a good friend. And it was talking about the issue of suffering in silence. And so, you know, the card before that, it's just, I love how this happens. The card before that, literally, when I pick out the one card, I get the card to the left and the right. So what we ended up with was the suffering in silence card. But before that, we actually had the throat chakra card. And of course, throat chakra is all about communications. Throat chakra is often seen as blue. And so this is, you know, that kind of element of listening, hearing, speaking, clear audience as well. And also when we look at blue, we're looking at things around peace and harmony and like, you know, peace man. But also there can be issues with when you've got someone who's got a lot of cobalt blue energy around them. There's going to be stuff there. There's going to be stuff there about issues with authority, perhaps dominant parent, whether that's the father figure or otherwise. And, you know, don't you tell me what to do kind of energy. And here that is next to that suffering in silence card, which is, you know what, I'm just going to make this happen. I'm just going to keep putting up with this, not going to express it. The card that came after that was Passion Ignited, which, of course, you know, once you start talking about stuff and maybe it raises some tempers, maybe it actually lifts the air on things, really does get things moving. The last card on that particular spread was Stand Your Ground, which, of course, when you're doing that, that's exactly what's happening. So when we kind of look at this issue of how spiritual is it to speak up and tell someone to go and F themselves, I kind of think that can be spiritual, right? You know, you sort of get told about being pious means being peaceful and surrendering to spirit and just, you know, allow for the flow. And that kind of works most of the time. There are times when, no, actually I need to speak up and stand my ground and maybe not give over my power or feel that I can't say something. And, you know, I think there's a lot to be said in finding your own meditative processes to how you work through life. And I think it's also about owning your feelings rather than silencing those, because often when we're not speaking, we're silencing our feelings. So how, as an empath, do you manage your energy, for example, if someone, you know, is trying to silence you? You know, do you keep suffering in silence? Is that the spiritual thing to do? No. Boundaries are really important. And I talk about that a lot in my work with people. But boundaries are really important for your own sense of peace and balance. So it's not just about keeping the peace. And sometimes people worry about breaking up families by saying something about how they have felt abused or mistreated or misunderstood, not heard. And, you know, they sort of say, oh, I don't want to break up the family, or I don't want to break up this friendship by telling them how I feel. The thing is, sometimes people might be doing things not caring how you feel, in which case, what friendship or relationship do you have here that you're breaking up? Because it sounds pretty broken already. So in looking as a psychic, as an empath, as a medium, at how to manage some of the interactions you come across, there is a great case for backing yourself. And, you know, that's what standing your ground is all about, you know, literally holding your own space and going, nah, not doing this. Now, it's interesting because I've then gone, all right, well, let's just try another spread of the angel cards and see what they have to tell us about this particular spread. And I also pulled out the goddess deck. Really, really interesting what you can do when you get a bit of time in your hands, isn't it? But often you can sort of look at things and go, well, how do I interpret this? Or is that just, you know, a generalized thing? well, how is this kind of, backed up? So angel blessing cards are one of my favourite. The middle card, so it's an answer to sacrificing, or suffering in silence, which it is sacrificing. The angel card that came in to help with that was actually Nathaniel, and that's about fire and about literally, kind of stepping up into your own energy. The card before that, relationship. So literally, here we are talking about how we're dealing in relationships with how we speak to people. And then out of coming into our fire and owning stuff, we get that freedom. So it's like releasing you from your own, prison that you're putting yourself in, which came into the situation was guardian angel. And I think it's really important not to just look to the external for our protection or our guidance and looking for people to have answers all the time. Sometimes it's about being our own guardian angel. Well, we all have a guardian angel. What are you doing to protect yourself? So sometimes people sort of go, well, I'm spiritual, so this will work out and I'll be put in the right place and I don't have to do anything. No, you need to help yourself as well, and then help will come to you. Because if we just sit there, we're kind of saying, all right, well, I'm shutting out the potentials and the possibilities. And if you think of people dealing with a disaster of some kind, and there's fears of whether, God will save them, and the old story of the flood came, a guy said, no, don't worry about driving me out of here, God will save me. And then a boat came, no, don't worry, God will save me. And then he got up on the roof and he's, like this, and a helicopter comes and he jumps out onto a tree because now, he has to get up onto the tree because it's higher than the roof. And the helicopter's dropped a rope down. He's going, no, don't worry, God will save me. He gets to the other side and he says, God, why didn't you save me? And God says, well, sent you your neighbours with a car, didn't evacuate then, sent the boat, nothing. Helicopter, rope, remember that part? Nada. And, well, now you're here. So what do you want from me? So I think, being a passenger in your own life is not necessarily the best way to go about things, or expecting some external to save you. It's really important as well, if you've been through, difficult times, is not to hold on to that difficult time and just dwell in that, to seek help, to seek guidance. Yeah. So that can be within prayer, that can be within friends, peer support, this sort of thing. It can also be through therapy in some cases where that's necessary. But, when you're looking at your own health and well-being as an empath and as all of the energy going on in the world at the moment that's quite chaotic, it's just really important to sort of sit back and go, all right, well, what can I do to help myself? How can I be a survivor rather than remaining a victim? Whilst I just want to make it very clear that we shouldn't push victims to anything they're not ready for. We've got to really respect and not minimise what they're going through. But if you are someone who's gone through things, it's really important to go, well, what step can I take right now for me to help me? And to take that step when you've got the energy to do it. If you haven't got the energy, well, it's okay. But when you're sort of looking at, do we stay suffering in the silence or do we step up? That's why sometimes you'll see survivors speaking up years later about what they've gone through. And sometimes people go, well, why are they talking now? It's only just now. People aren't ready straight away. It takes time. So, if you're someone listening to the story of someone else and they're finally coming out with something, it's just really important to also hold space for them. And I think it's also really noteworthy as well that with empaths, with psychics, with mediums, we can't give you legal advice. We can't give you medical advice. That's for doctors, that's for lawyers. And when people put me in that position and ask me, do you think I will go and, take this particular health intervention? It's like, well, not your doctor, and I actually am not going to predict that for you, because that is actually a free will, fully informed choice. And you have the information in this case, in that particular person's case, to make that informed choice. Okay, I can't help you with that. So just, sometimes what you're expressing to people is really important, where the limits are of what you can give people, what support you can give, what support you're qualified to give, which is why as psychics, we're not psychologists. We certainly at times. A lot of our work can involve kind of a counselling aspect, but we're coming very much from what we intuitively, psychically, empathically, but also on a mediumship level are picking up, whether it's from what's around you, whether it's within your life story of what you've gone through. Sometimes people actually say, well, how did you know that about me? And I just say, well, what session do you think you booked? And we just have a laugh about that. And it's just really important to kind of always just put it back in the context of what is it are you doing there, either as the psychic yourself practicing with a client, or as the client, what is it that you're there for? What's the framework here? And to kind of keep that clear. I would always be wary if a psychic is trying to sell me some really expensive curse removal for like $2,000 or something. And it's like, I once heard of a lady who told every single person that she saw that they had a curse on them and they had to be cleared of this. And no, that's not it, sis. So, when you're kind of looking at what help to get, it's like, well, does this feel right to me? Listen to that, listen to your gut, and don't suffer in silence. When we're looking at the goddess cards, I actually had a card come up that talks about nourishment and about looking after yourself, which really goes to the whole story of this. The card that came after that was Isis, which is all about mothering and nurturing. So that is self-care. And then coming to the crossroads. So we sort of look at Hecate being the speaker of wisdom. And we, in the crone goddesses, it's Maiden Mother Crone, maybe not demonizing older women. They've got a lot to offer. So, look at in society what we're valuing. That'd be the thing I'd look at. Anyway, I'll be back next week. Lovely to chat with you. Hope you have a great week in the meantime. And there's more shows coming up on A1R Psychic Radio and Moonstruck TV. Bye for now.